What's up? It's Tom. Thanks for clicking on this video. We're going to talk about a report from Dan Hayes of The Athletic on an update to the Twins ownership situation. But first off, happy spring training opening day for the Minnesota Twins. Unfortunately, we don't have any way to watch this game. I'm not sure why that is. That would be a great way to introduce Twins TV is to give us the opening spring training game to watch. But hey, apparently that's not in the cards. So it is. There is a radio broadcast, so that is an option. But Zebby Matthews is a starting pitcher for the Twins, and this is what Rocco is going with the lineup. I think it's interesting to call out that Ty France is at first, Willie Castro's at second. Harrison Bader's in left field, and Trevor Larnach's at DH. All the rest of those guys, other than Vasquez, Jeffers is going to see a little bit more time than Vasquez probably, although they split it up pretty evenly. The other guys were pretty obvious. It is just the first lineup of spring training, but if you kind of combined this lineup with a lot of the words they've been saying, a lot of the talk at camp, it's not too surprising that those names I rifled through are in those positions. Lots of talk about basically that second base is not Brooks Lee's to lose, essentially. A lot of talk about Ty France being the starting guy at first. A lot of talk about Bader playing left field. So we'll be curious to see how that goes. Of course, injuries are going to dictate who's where probably as much as anything. But just great to see a Twins lineup, really. So anyway, back into the topic at hand, what everybody's reacting to this morning. In case you missed it, Dan Hayes over at The Athletic wrote this article, Twins regroup after Justin Ishbia drops bid for White Sox deal. Everything's on the table. So sounds pretty scary. Definitely, doesn't feel good that the one person that we know, the one person who's been put front and center in this potential sale now is not there. So I don't blame anybody who kind of is slumping their shoulders reading this, or, there've been much stronger reactions than that I've seen around on social media, to put it lightly. Some people are reacting pretty strongly. I get why. But personally, I'm not all that impacted by this, in my opinion. Yes, Justin Ishbia was the one person we knew of, but reports were, and these reports did not come from the poll ads. These came from outside of the poll ads that someone familiar with the proceedings said there was a robust market. So we'll take that for what it's worth. So it's not like this was the only option. He may have been the leader, but this was not the only option. And it sounds like Ishbia, who lives in Illinois, is opting to further invest in the White Sox. I think Jerry Reinsdorf, their primary owner, is pushing 90. Maybe he, I'm not sure what the succession plan looks like there, but maybe he envisions himself being able to own the White Sox before too much longer. So the big takeaway from this article, I'm not going to give you the whole thing. You should be subscribed to The Athletic. Check out all the information there. But this was kind of the biggest piece of information in that report. The Twins process continues to move forward according to a person with knowledge of the sale details who said a number of interested parties remain engaged. Some of them have already been vetted. So even though Ishbia was certainly the leader and the person who it sounded like had been done the most kind of homework, and the Twins had done the most homework on, there are some other parties out there. And then it continues. That's the scary part that I think everybody's hanging on to. The team's current ownership group, the Pohlad family, could also pull the team off the market if its price isn't met. So that is what everybody's reacting to. I understand why, but I have a hard time believing it's going to get to that point. That's based purely on speculation. I want to be completely honest about that. Anything I'm saying out here is coming from me, and it's not based on anything other than just kind of the vibes I'm getting. I don't think, if the Pohlad family had any interest in continuing to own the Minnesota Twins, I don't think they would have made such a public declaration that they were putting the team up for sale. Now we have, and Dan has done a good job at pointing this out too in his work on these sale articles. There have been 2 instances of recent MLB teams exploring a sale and then pulling a team off the market, so it's not like this would be completely unheard of if the Pohlads did pull the team off the market. And of course, our Timberwolves fans know how messy a potential sale can be with the Glenn Taylor and then the Alex Rodriguez group and all that stuff. So these things can get really complicated. I'm not, and Justin Ishbia pulling out, I think, creates more avenue for things to be a little less black and white, a little bit more complicated. That's unfortunate. But as a silver lining, at least there is clarity on his role or his involvement. Now we know he's out. That makes clarity. Who's up next? We don't know that part. So it's easier to react to this and think about what the unknown is. But this is a piece of information we know. So it's progress in a way. We know for sure that Justin Ishbia is not going to be owning the Twins. I understand that was a potential owner people found very attractive. The Ishbia brothers have a lot of money. But there's, again, as this report says, a number of interested parties remain engaged. And I believe that the Pohlads are very motivated to sell this team. I don't think any of them have much interest in continuing to own the Minnesota Twins. We saw, Jim Pohlad step back. Joe Pohlad stepped in. It seems like it seemed early on, at least, that he was pretty motivated and liked kind of to be a little bit more out front and enjoyed the baseball side of things. And, obviously him bringing Carlos Correa back on that big contract felt like a pretty big statement, but here we are a couple years later and, it seems like they want to be out. And, maybe they do have a hard line asking price. I would bet you that it's more of a situation where, within reason, they're going to take what they can get. They're not going to take 75% of the projected valuation. I don't know that we're at that point, that they're that desperate, but I don't know that they need to be. Just because maybe they're having a hard time finding a potential buyer to meet their specific price, I bet you that price would go down. I really don't think they have any interest in continuing to be in the baseball business. And it's worked out incredibly well for them. What Carl bought the team for like $40 million or something back in the day. Now we're talking about $1 billion asset. I feel like there's other things that the Pohlad family wants to do with that money that they're sitting on. So what does this change? Well, let's switch back to baseball. I like talking about baseball more than this stuff. And again, just to be super clear, that is all speculation outside of that Dan reporting. All the opinions that I shared is complete speculation. So let's continue to speculate. What does this change for the actual baseball team, the 2025 Minnesota Twins? That's a question I've seen come up elsewhere. If potentially there's not a new owner in place by opening day or not a whole lot of momentum on that, is that going to change? Are the Pohlads going to basically regret allowing Derek Falvey to spend that $10 million on not exciting pieces, but they let him expand the payroll a little bit to fit in the Baders, Ty France, and Danny Coulomb? Are they going to regret that? Are they going to basically demand Derek Falvey trade Chris Paddock or Christian Vasquez or potentially Willie Castro? I don't think they operate that way. And we've spent, if you want to be charitable, we'll say the Pohlads run the Twins like a business. If you don't feel like being charitable, we could say they're cheap. And we've spent decades calling this family cheap. And now all of a sudden, people are wondering if the Pohlads extended themselves, believing that the team would be sold. These are cheap business people who don't care about baseball at all. No, they did not. Again, this is my opinion. No, they did not extend themselves beyond their comfort level based on the idea that they thought they weren't going to be paying these salaries. This was inside of their comfort zone, knowing that there wasn't any kind of a concrete sale pending. So, in my opinion, I don't think that them continuing to potentially own the franchise rolling into 2025 is going to mean anything to the payroll. I don't think they're going to ask Falvey to slash the payroll. However, we can take the payroll piece out of that and say there's plenty of good baseball reason you might want to trade Chris Paddock. There's plenty of good baseball reason you might want to trade Christian Vasquez, in my opinion. With Paddock, it's a little more obvious to see. David Festa looked pretty good at the end of last year. If you want him to be your fifth starter instead of Paddock, Paddock's on an expiring contract as well. If you want to move him to give Festa a look, that makes total sense. Debbie Matthews is in that picture as well. Andrew Morris is. There's a lot of guys in that picture, in that starting pitching depth picture, who you may kind of think have a better shot than Chris Paddock. With catcher, it's a little bit less a little bit less, but I still think like if you wanted to roll with Jeffers as more of your primary guy and have him with Camargo and Cartaya. I know Diego Cartaya hasn't really established himself in the upper minors yet. He's a young guy. He's like 23 still. But Camargo, and Camargo's coming off kind of a poor year of his own. But if we look at things through the lens of a backup catcher, I mean, it's Christian Vasquez he'd be replacing. It's not like the bar is set that high. I've been a big kind of a defender of Vasquez in terms of like, I'm sure there's a lot of things that he brings as a veteran guy who's been on 2 World Series winnings teams and a lot of things behind the scenes. And you could envision a lot of things in like pitching meetings that he really brings value that maybe a Jair Camargo or a Diego Cartaya might not. But just in terms of production on the field, I mean, my goodness, the bar is not that high. So even without any kind of payroll restriction conversation, you could imagine reasons why the Twins would continue to be interested in potentially trading Christian Vasquez or Chris Paddack. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't think that the Pohlads continuing to own the team would change that conversation much. And I still don't think there's any logical reason why you would want to trade Willie Castro anyway, but that's a whole other conversation. And I'm a big Willie guy. I think he fits in so nicely with this team and their needs and as insurance at all these positions that they really need insurance at. So what do you think, though? Let me know. Am I crazy? Should we be running through the streets with torches demanding that the Pohlads sell now or else they're going to own the team forever? Maybe I'm wrong. Again, this is my opinions and speculation on all this stuff. Let me know what you think. Enjoy listening to the game or even just being able to look through a box score with Twins players in it later is going to be wonderful. So enjoy that. Thanks for checking this out. We'll talk again soon.